The Nigerian Labour Congress, the NLC, and the Trade Union Congress, TUC, yesterday shut down electricity distribution companies, the DISCOs, and offices of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, across the Federation. In a protest prompted by the recent hike of electricity tariffs by the NERC and the DISCOs, the unions called for a complete reclamation of public electricity assets. The leadership of the organized labor made the request yesterday during a protest at the NERC headquarters in Abuja, where workers expressed their stand against the recent hike in electricity tariffs. The NLC and the TUC are demanding a reversal of the tariff hike and a review of the privatization process. They are also demanding the dollarization of gas supply for electricity generation and the widespread distribution of prepaid meters. Now, this is something that we will be talking about this time of the day. We have in the studio with us the spokesman of Nigerian Labour Congress, Comrade Benson Upah. Good morning, Comrade. It's good to have you.
My pleasure.
Of course. So yesterday we saw the organized labor, organized unions in general. Nigeria took a strong stance against the recent electricity hike tariff. The protests involved, the picketing of offices of the NERC and the DISCOs, and also, the reason behind it is massive, saying that it is being echoed by Nigerians worldwide. Explain to me, your worries in all of this.
Yeah, to directly speak to this, on the 8th of May, we wrote to the appropriate authorities, DISCOs, NEC, telling them to reverse this unreasonable hike, to allow the laws governing the electricity circuit or industry, let the laws operate in a supreme manner, not an individual coming to an individual wakes up today, he says one thing, he wakes up tomorrow another thing. Yeah, we also said that we should this discriminatory policy of ban A, ban B, ban C, ban Z, that this should stop. But of course, they didn't listen. And, so that protest became inevitable. But first of all, let's look at the issue of the tariff hike. It was in breach of the extant regulations. It's clearly stated that before any hike takes place, there should be consultations with the appropriate stakeholders, critical stakeholders. None took place. 2, the hike was and still remains unreasonable, 250%. And that does not happen anywhere. High energy tariffs mean a certain death for the manufacturing sector and for businesses generally. And in our situation, where the manufacturing sector spends as much on energy backup as it spends on the regular electricity supply, this is another burden. At the moment, 40% of big business is lost, crushed. 30% of medium-level business crushed. 60% of small business wiped out. With this 250% hike, more certain death is coming. This will lead to loss of jobs, loss of incomes, everything. The country is gradually shutting down. But from the perspective of you and I, the individual consumers, how much of this can we really afford? Who determines ban A? Who determines ban B? They hold the knife, they hold the yam. They decide what constitutes ban A. But even then, the number of hours are not being met, but they're still charging people. But come to look at it, hours remains the only example that I know that people market inefficiency. People promote inefficiency.
How so?
How? When you and I pay for light, the assumption is that it should be 247, 24 hours. Look at this thing.
I'm sure they did not promise 24 hours for Band A, but they promised
what I'm
over
saying
20
is this.
hours.
I say, what obtains is this anywhere around the world. When you pay for electricity, the assumption is that it should be there when you need it. But here we have a situation whereby even when you pay for it, you don't see it. And when it is available, they still want to discriminate against you. Yet, light belongs to God and should be available to all of us. That is the intention of light. But these guys are marketing their inefficiency. I don't know whether I'm communicating with you.
Yeah.
That there should be light.
There should be light for everybody.
That there should be light for everybody. And you should touch it. It is when you use it that you pay for it. But it should be there. But here are these guys making available to everybody darkness. And they're now using, and they're discriminating against more than 90% of Nigerians.
Yes. I mean, I would want to talk about the discrimination that the labor union is perceiving from the government. But then let's talk about the labor union's interaction with the Band A users. Yes. I mean, considering that the Band A so far are paying a chunk load of money in order to secure light, have you had a one-on-one conversation with these users, at least a huge percentage of them, to determine that the number of hours that was promised to them was not delivered or has not been delivered so far?
Yeah. First, the number of hours has not been met. Two, the burden is too heavy for them to carry. And repercussions are already coming. Threats are already in the public domain that there will be shutdowns, there will be increases in prices of products and services.
This is from business owners.
Yes.
Addressing.
And then the individuals are crying wolf that they can't bear this. I personally have interacted with quite a number of people who said, oh, if there is a Band Z, take me to Band Z. Leave me out of this. Leave me out of this chicanery. Leave me out of so. But as I said to you earlier on, this is marketing inefficiency. Okay? Do you know the trillions that have been pumped into this sector since the privatization exercise? We were told at the onset that if the energy sector was privatized, that it would be light to be readily available to every Nigerian at a cheaper rate because there'll be more efficiency.
In the long term.
Look, it's been 20 years. So, where are we? You see, we are in a situation whereby there is an unholy marriage between government and the successor entities that took over NEPA. Those entities believe government is not doing enough. Government believes it has done more than enough. But what we are yet to see is a divorce between these entities. Because government has pumped in money. Where does this money go? It does not translate into anything. Trillions. And we have not gone beyond 4.5 thousand. Yeah. How? In a country of 200 million plus, we should be ashamed of ourselves.
So it's just like you said. This promise has been for the longest time the privatization, and we've seen how privatization of the power sector in other countries, developed countries, have worked.
Yes.
So NLC and the TUC are a group that talks on behalf of Nigerians, and there's been a bit of speculations in the power sector, but you all know that the administration that is currently heading towards tackling this issue is not the one that started and made this agreement until now, at least. So where do you think, the government has gone wrong, and how can this be solved at this point?
First, let me correct an impression here. This government may not have been the one that privatized the energy sector. Government is a continuum.
Indeed.
It takes responsibility, particularly when it is continuing in the stride of the predecessor governments that were part of this process. This government has, if it so wishes, it could say, we are going to review this exercise. We are going to reverse this exercise. In fact, there are provisions in the power sector reform that permit government to do this, that allow, every contractual agreement, every good contractual agreement must of necessity have an exit strategy, and this one has. So why isn't government exploiting it? See, we have had privatization exercises around the world, some reviewed, some reversed. So there is no use for government to start feeling infallible, that it cannot go wrong. Government is not a shrine. Even shrines do go wrong. So on this score, something has gone wrong. Something has patently gone wrong. And I tell you, from day one, there was lack of capacity on the entities that took over. Financial capacity, there was deficit of that. So they went to bank to take hot money. And when the banks came for their money, they didn't have it. So the banks took over some of the entities. Technical deficit. They were supposed to have gotten some partnership from outside the country. Some didn't get, some got, whatever it was. But it never worked. So you have a plethora of deficits. That's the reason why we're here. And then generally, power reforms, power projects are avenues for sinking countries like ours. Have you ever read the Confessions of an Economic Hitman? Google it and read it. They use electricity, energy calculations, energy needs, all those energy permutations to deal with countries, to keep you whatever. There's no way this country can grow if it does not have steady and reliable source of energy. It cannot make anything. And yet if this country were able to break through, generate, distribute energy, it has a huge internal market. That's one. It has a contiguous West African market. And from there, it could go to other parts of Africa because it has advantage. So, but somebody somewhere has looked at all of that and probably has decided that we must not get it right in energy sovereignty. And somebody sitting down here might also have accepted that because cheese may have been pushed to the person's front or to the people's front. So what is happening to us is a manifestation of conspiracy. Okay? It's conspiracy. If Nigeria wakes up, it's a giant, I tell you. It will create a ripple effect beyond our region here. West Africa.
But then it needs to wake up. Okay.
Yes.
So now from the concerns of the union, what is the perfect solution for this particular situation? Because one of the points you made mention of is the fact that there seems to be no political will to push all of this, even though we've seen the present administration at least made an effort towards this. But then, yes, we all agree that most of the decisions is not favoring the masses. So what is the union's solution? How, the power sector can grow? Because it definitely would benefit every Nigerian.
Yeah, first, I want to let you know that we made submissions in the past to the government on the right way to go.
This present administration or the previous?
The previous one. Even this one too, in our interactions, we said no. We said raising taxes, raising tariffs will just be treating symptoms. Review, reverse, part the veil or lift the veil to reveal the real owners of these entities.
But the government should have made at least research using experts before making this decision. Or is there any question of the capacity of the experts?
Capacity to what before they did the privatization,
No, for the band A increment.
You see, I just told you that government is not infallible. Government does make mistakes. What the minister told us was that the only alternative to the raising of the tariff hike will be darkness. And we found that ridiculous. How could that be? You are treating symptoms. To show you how illogical his assumption was and still remains. Capacity. How many people can afford this? Environmental effect. The business environment becomes more hostile. You and I, our mood changes. Productivity declines. Our health sinks. But generally, when you put out a product out in the market, or a service in the market, and 90 to 95% of the people cannot afford it, nobody needs to tell you that you're in bad business. You're in bad business from start. So, what the minister who acted after the World Bank said so, what the minister did by raising the tariff was treating the symptoms. They should go back to the beginning where they got it wrong and correct it. Now, on the issue of capacity, let me just speak generally. This goes beyond the issue of minimum wage, as it were. The Bretton Woods institutions, the World Bank and IMF, want us to pay global rates. And they are putting their foot down to pay global rates. That's why you now pay the kind of money you pay for fuel. They now say you should pay this for light. A couple of things now are unhinged. You are now paying compared to pay global rates. Nobody is talking about global remunerations. Okay? The minimum wage at the moment, gradually in Nigeria, is 30,000. Those global rates that are paid in US, the minimum wage in US at the moment is 2.5 million naira. So if you are asking us to pay global rates, you owe us a duty of care. You owe us that responsibility to also ensure that we are paid global rates. There is a nexus between capacity and rate payment.
So far, has the union received any reply from the federal government?
The government said that we should have a meeting. And you see, well, this meeting held as provided for by the TC, probably would not have gotten to where we are. But what is happening now, or the impression emerging now, is that this government takes decisions first and then begins to think about what the effects will be later. So we have seen one major policy change, second, third, and this one.
But is the labor union hopeful, for a better outcome when this meeting holds?
Well, I cannot speak for the government. I don't know what they intend to do. But there's something I can speak about. And that thing is, Nigerians are being pummeled from left, right, back, front, and whatever. When you begin to do that to a people, there could be consequences.
Oh, we hope it doesn't get to the consequences. I mean, it's all about the growth of Nigeria. Thank you so much, Comrade Benson Upah, for joining us to dissect the situation of the hike in electricity tariff. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Pleasure.
Comrade Benson Upah is the spokesman of the Nigerian Labour Congress. And with that, of course, we wrap up this segment. Do stick around.